Canada is a truly beautiful country. Now, this is pretty much common knowledge. I mean, everyone knows that Canada is an absolutely massive country with lots and lots of nature. It's kind of like Canada's identity in a way. And how does Canada show off this beauty to the rest of the world? Well, my friends, Canada has a remarkable national park system. This system is quite literally massive, dotting the map from coast to coast to coast. Remember, Canada has 3 coasts. Everyone always just forgets about the poor Arctic Ocean. Although it's getting some attention nowadays with global warming and such. Okay, I'm getting distracted. Back to national parks. In total, Canada protects 9.69% of its total land, of which 3% is national parks. Now, you might be thinking that that is not a lot, especially when considering other countries. Venezuela, which is the country that protects the most land percentage-wise, protects 54.14% of its land, which is honestly kind of weird given that Venezuela politically is not going too well as of lately. However, we have to take into consideration that Venezuela is only, 916,000 square kilometers, while Canada is literally 9.9 million. So in terms of total protected land, Canada vastly surpasses Venezuela by a large margin. Now, when only considering national parks, Canada accounts for 340,000 square kilometers or 6 Nova Scotias of protected land. Not bad. Now, obviously, the national parks in Canada vary in size. Wood Buffalo, for example, is the largest national park and is 44,741 square kilometers, which, if it were a country, it would replace Denmark, the European part, as the 130th largest country in the world. Imagine an entire park the size of Denmark, entirely protected from all human activity. Now, Wood Buffalo is not really a popular park, being all the way up in northern Alberta, and interestingly, some sections of the park are actually in the Northwest Territories. Alright, so I can't make an entire video about Canadian national parks without talking about the OG of national parks in Canada, Banff. Banff was in fact the first national park in Canada and was established in 1885. You see, at the time, Canada was very obsessed about building a railroad to British Columbia, and they had to traverse, the Rocky Mountains. And in the process of building this railroad, workers discovered the natural beauty of this area, and they also discovered lots and lots of hot springs. The area was therefore declared a national park, and soon after many other national parks were created, such as Yoho National Park and Glacier National Park, both in 1886. This was soon followed by Waterton National Park in 1895, which is actually a very underrated park in my opinion. Like, in all legitness, just as beautiful as Banff, but way less commercialized. You actually feel like you're in nature. And same goes for Jasper, which was created in 1907. Now, these first national parks, especially Banff, were huge successes, especially financially. Like, they made a lot of money. They even built an entire castle in Banff where very wealthy people would stay during their visits. So the Canadian government was like, we should probably start doing these in the East. And that is exactly what they did by creating parks such as 1,000 Islands in the St. Lawrence River and Cape Breton Highland in Nova Scotia. By the 1970s, Canada had 18 national parks, and this is about the time where the Canadian government went on overdrive. Parks Canada decided that there should be a national park representing every ecological region of Canada. They determined that there were actually 39 ecological regions in Canada, and they went to work. Now, side note, by this time, Quebec was actually the only province that did not have a national park, which is kind of odd since its motto for a long time was La Belle Province, literally meaning the beautiful province. But this was more for political reasons, the whole separatist issue and blah 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 blah. Quebec now has many national parks such as La Morancy National Park and Jacques-Cartier National Park, both of which are extremely beautiful, especially if you're into valleys and canoeing.
But yeah, back in the 1970s, parks were being established everywhere in Canada.
7 were established in the 1970s, including Kluane National Park in the Yukon. This is where Mount Logan is located, Canada's highest peak and second in North America. At 6,050 meters, which is literally 6 kilometers, you can actually climb the mountain, although you need some qualified professionals with you. Don't try to do it yourself, you will probably die. In the 1980s, Canada added another 5 national parks and 6 in the 1990s. Now, these new additions included absolutely massive parks in the territories such as Tuktoyaktuk National Park and Sirmilik National Park, both being over 18,000 square kilometers. Now, these massive Arctic parks are not there to make any money. Very few people ever visit them, and in fact, it's almost impossible to even get to them at all. Like Sirmilik is literally an island off of Banff Island, which is itself almost impossible to travel to. So these parks are there to protect the integrity of the Arctic landscape and make sure that the polar bears and seals living there are having a good time. Now, in the 2000s, Canada, already having a considerable collection of national parks, needed more. So Parks Canada added another 4 parks. And finally, in the 2010s, or teens, I guess? Well, yeah, during this decade, Canada added another 7 national parks. The newest one being Tyendinaine National Park, being this confusing mess of dotted land in the Northwest Territories by the Great Slave Lake. Now, I don't know why they chose to make the park this way. It literally makes no sense. But anyways, the park was actually established just last year in 2019. So yeah, there you have it, Canada's national park system.
Now, obviously, I left out a lot of cool things about national parks in Canada. I mean, you could probably make a 10-minute video about each one of them. Every park has something unique to offer with lots of cool activities to try out. So that is it for today's video. I hope you learned something new about Canada's extensive national park system. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider liking and even subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.